All right, let's continue our discussion. Okay. So make sure you have a copy of this sample test. I believe it's on Canvas. Okay. Let's look at the first one. In the above figure, B represents, now let's look at B. So it's a flow between households and a goods market. So this must means what? Household purchase of goods and service is C. Right? And here we can look at one by one. So what is A? A essentially is household income, right? What is D? D essentially is the goods, essentially is the product, what they produce, right? And what is C? C, this should be investment, right? Because firms sometimes they also invest in goods market. And F, that's net export, right? What is E? E should be tax, right? Okay, this one. Question number 2. Use the information in the table above to calculate the value of net export. Okay, so net exports, and then we look at these two. 20 minus 10, 20 minus 10 should be B. Okay. Now let's look at 3. Normally in the US, a relationship between nominal and real GDP for a given year. So nominal GDP, just remember, so the graph we just saw, right, since 1960, only in 1 year, which is 2009, so the US economy is experiencing deflation. Deflation, sorry. And every other years we have inflation, meaning nominal GDP is above real GDP. Right, so D is correct. Now 4, in 2014 net export, so most of the time the US is running a trade deficit and the net export is negative. That's the basic facts regarding the US economy. Okay. Question 5, again, so you just look at export minus import. Okay. Question C, marginal attached worker falls into which of the following category? So they are not in labor force because they haven't actively searching for a job in past 4 weeks. Okay, so they are not in the labor force. 7, unemployment rate is measured as C. Okay, so that's the definition of unemployment rate. Okay. 8, unemployment rate, let's go one by one, include people without a job who has made effort. That is correct. To remember effort in the last week. But whoever has made effort in the last 4 weeks to find a job, and then so this should consider as unemployed. Now B, count people with part-time job who want full-time job. So actually, so this person is employed, but this person is considered involuntary part-time. C, discourage worker not in labor force. D, including people without job, whether they are actively searching for work or not. That's not correct. If someone is not actively searching for a job, it's not unemployed. So A is correct. 9. Suppose labor force in tiny town is 100. If what is 150 and then the labor force participation rate equal to, okay. So how we calculate labor force participation rate? We use the number of people in labor force divided by working age adults population times 100. And this 100 is normalization. Now, with this information, so we can easily find out D is correct, right? So if the working age population is 150, and then the labor force participation rate equal to, so 100, which is labor force, 150, which is adult population, times 100, that is for normalization, right? 10. This type of unemployment reflects the normal amount of unemployed worker who possess skills that will enable them to find another job. So that's frictional, because you need to find the right type of jobs. 11. Unemployment caused by people voluntarily leave their jobs is classified as is frictional. Right, so you want to looking for something better or something fits you better. 12. Which of the following individual is the best example of structural unemployment? So A is not correct. This is caused by business cycle. This is cyclical. B, so someone hoping to find a better job, that's called frictional. And D, let's go to D, a recent college graduate who enters the labor force. So that's also frictional. Only C is correct, auto workers, who has lost her job because of increase in automobile import and doesn't have the skill currently needed by business. So there's some structural change in the labor market, cause her to lose job. Right. 13. Assume the inflation rate falls from 4 to 2. This means that answer is B. The price level is increasing more slowly. Okay. Now 14. In the table above, what inflation rate belongs to here? But how we calculate inflation rate? So essentially, we just look at the price change between year 3 and year 4, right? So that should be 120 minus 125 divided 125 times 100. So that's for normalization. And obviously, there's only one answer, C, because it must be a negative number, right? If this year price level is 135, last year was 125, inflation rate. Okay, so this is similar to here, right? So 135 the answer is B. Okay. So I'm gonna skip 16 because the same. now 17. Suppose real GDP is 13 in 2015, 14 in 2016, and 15 in 2017, and 16 in 2018. Over this time period, the GDP growth rate is increasing, but some students tempted to say it's constant. Sorry, apologize. No, so yeah, so you see, so I just made mistake, and some students even attempted to say this is constant, but actually, so it increased by 1 every year, but the growth rate started to decline because you grow by 1 every year, but your base becomes larger and larger. Because from 2015 to 2016, the growth is 1 divided by 13. Now from 16 to 17, the growth rate is 1 divided by 14. Now from 17 to 18, the growth rate is 1 divided by 15. So you can see the growth rate is decreasing. 18. During 2014, the country of Economia had real GDP of 115 billion, population of 0.9 billion. In 2013, real GDP is 105, and the population is 0.85. The question asks you in 2014, real GDP per person. Right. So we use 115 divided by 0.9. Right. Answer is B. Right. So now we go to 19. In 2010, of the following, which nation has highest level of real GDP per person? Right. So that's just some basic knowledge regarding to economic growth. And the answer should be B. The 3 type of unemployment. So that's clearly B. 21. If we compare 4 sources of spending in the economy, we see that, so this refers to C, I, G, and X. Okay, so that's a basic fact regarding to GDP. Okay. The answer is B. So now, real GDP grow 4%. How many years will it take to double? So this is rule of 70. 70 divided by 4. Okay, so I leave the calculation for you. If a nation's population grows, then let's go one by one. Growth in real GDP per person will be greater than the growth of real GDP. So this must be wrong, right? Because population is growing. Right? And then, so you have a bigger denominator, because what is per capita GDP? Is the real GDP divided by population. If this is growing, and then so this entire term is going to decrease. Right, so the answer is B. Now go to 24. Which of the following statements are correct? A, average growth rate in real GDP per person in the United States over the last century was 5%. Again, these are basic facts in economic growth. Actually, it's close to 2%, not 5. 2, the US has highest economic growth rate of any nation. That's not correct. right? So clearly, so there are many countries growth rate is higher than US, India, China, right? So D is the right choice. Now 25. Over the past 4 decades, A, US real GDP per person has increased. That's actually true. B, US real GDP per person has fallen below that of other rich industrial countries. That's not correct. The growth rate of real GDP per person in the United States has been rising. It has been very stable. Okay, so only A is correct. Now 26, which of the following relationship is correct? A, gross investment equal to net investment plus depreciation. So that's correct. Okay. So just keep in mind this question, right? So I probably didn't explain this in details. So depreciation essentially is the capital worn out. So that is considered as investment because you have to replace this depreciation with additional capital. Now 27, the difference between gross and net investment, that's just follow 26, right? So that's depreciation. Now 28, according to BEA, BEA stands for Bureau of Economic Analysis. This is a government agency responsible for measuring GDP and reporting GDP. In the second quarter of 2012, purchase of new residential structure rose by 8.9% using the expenditure approach. This change increased. So expenditure approach measuring GDP by looking at C, I, G, and X. This new residential structure is considered as investment. Okay. So 28 is B answer. So now 29, personal consumption expenditure includes the following except consumer non-durables, consumer service, new housing. Right, so durable is considered consumption. Consumer service consumption. Consumer durable goods consumption. New housing is not as consumer expenditure. New housing actually is considered as investment because it's going to last for a while. Okay, so the answer is C. C is the answer. 30. A US firm buys new industrial sewing machine from a company located in France. Which is correct? US net export decrease. What's net export? It's export minus import. So here is essentially import increase. Then the net export is going to decrease. That's correct. Two, US investment increase. So this sewing machine is considered as capital investment. So this is also correct. So 30 answer is C. 31, from 1980 to 2000, the employment to population ratio generally, so this is just regarding to the basic facts for the labor market of the US. So the employment to population ratio, so I show you a graph, last graph. In general, this is increase. And in 2000 to 2014, it decreased. And so that's the basic facts for the US labor market. 32. The unemployment rate is measured as this is just same questions, right? It should be A. This is a repeated question. Now 33, employment to population ratio. Okay, so you just look at these terms you should figure out, right? So we did not look at this explicitly. We look at other measure, but from here, so you should have no problem to find out the answer is D, the number of people employed divided by working age population. Now 34. An observer of the economy noticed that over the past 12 months, the unemployment rate has fallen from 7 to 6.5. During the same time, the rate of growth has been positive. So unemployment rates decline. The growth, real growth, is positive. Now, A, inflation is not occurring, so we don't have any information on price. This is not correct. B, an expansion is occurring. Actually, yes, this is a sign of expansion. Right? C, a trough in the business cycle will soon be reached. What is trough? Trough essentially is worse day of recession. That's not correct. If they change and say, okay, a peak in the business cycle we're soon to reach, and that's correct. Okay. D, a recession is in progress. No. So answer is B. 35. In September 2012, the US unemployment rate was 7.8%, while the natural unemployment rate was 6%. The US economy, so one by one. A has a positive output gap. So unemployment rate is above this natural rate. So that just means you are not functioning in full capacity. So this should be a negative output gap. B was in full employment. No, so you are below, or you have higher unemployment. So this is not correct. C has output gap of 0, as I just said in A. So you have a negative output gap. So D is correct. So because simply so you have higher unemployment rate than natural. Right. 36. When real GDP is what's the relationship with potential GDP unemployment rate is natural unemployment. Right. So basically, so there are two possibilities. If this is greater than potential GDP, then unemployment rate is lower than natural. If the real GDP is less than potential, and then unemployment rate is greater than natural. All right. And then answer is C. Okay. So now next one, the cause of inflation. That's what we just discussed. Opportunity cost of resource used by people to protect themselves against inflation. Correct. The diversion of productive resource to focus the inflation. That's correct. Okay. So B. Oh, sorry, C. And then we have talked about other resources. Sorry, other costs of inflation, like a manual cost, like a unit of count cost. Okay. Last two questions. If last year's price level was 100 and this year was 104, over the year inflation rate, oh, that's fairly straightforward, 104. Right, so it's 14%. Last year price level was 120, since then has 5% inflation. Okay. So this essentially is what? So you are going to find out the price level minus 120 divided by 120 times 100 equal to 5%. Right? So if you understand this formula, then the answer is obvious C. Okay, so all the answers here, but so because today so it seems like we have good amount of time, so I have been going through one by one, and make sure you understand all the questions and in particular understands all the options. All right, and then you should be ready to go for our second midterm.